So, hello everybody. Welcome to the program of American Corners and American Space of Almaty. My name is Shirin Goel and I'm the coordinator of American Space Almaty. Thank you very much for joining us today. And you are very lucky to have Caroline Ideus to introduce you with the American university system, the higher education, and what types of higher education exist in the United States. And you will learn about the application processes and the many interesting facts about how you can be adjusted in US universities. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to use our chat box, or if there is a time where you can ask questions, like there will be a special time, so you can unmute yourself and ask your questions yourself. But please be respectful and polite. Do not interrupt during the presentation, and please mute and stop your video because it will increase our quality. Let me introduce our speaker today. Caroline Ideus is an English language fellow from Martin, Tennessee. She worked for 6 years as an intensive English program at a small and rural university. And her academic interests are experiential learning and second language identity. So I will give the floor to our speaker, Caroline. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we are looking forward to hearing your presentation.
All right, thank you. And good evening, everybody. I hope you're doing okay. It's exactly 12-hour time difference. So right now it's 8 a.m. for me. So it's not so bad. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Caroline Ideus, and I taught 6 years at an American university in rural Northwest Tennessee. And I had studied abroad for 1 semester when I was an undergraduate in Estonia. So I have also experienced a study abroad. And then I completed my MA TEFL and TESOL in the United Kingdom. So I had a master's experience in a different country. So I understand both sides from working at a university and then studying abroad. And then I also had taught ESL in Japan for 5 years. So I have lots of experiences that help international students come to the US. There are many ways to study in the US. And first of all, I'll talk a little bit about the 3 main ways. And the first way is the four-year university. This is what you probably see on TV and movies the most frequently. And then there's also community college system. And then there's the intensive English program. And also there are short-term experiences available through the American Embassy or maybe through a local program. So I will show you, for those of you that are interested, there's a website called Education USA. So educationusa.state.gov. And this website really explains the whole process and so on. So I encourage you to save this website and to look at it later, but Education USA. And of course, they have social media. I encourage you to follow them on social media and everything else. So first of all, the four-year university. This is probably what you see on TV most of the time, or movies and TV shows, is the four-year universities offer a bachelor's degree, master's, and PhDs. And they can be public or private, and they can be rural setting or urban setting, and any major available. So basically, it's almost anything. And there are so many universities in the US, and maybe you're familiar with Harvard and the big schools, but maybe there are other universities that are probably more well suited for individuals for studying abroad. And for example, the university where I worked was about 6,000 students and in a rural setting. So our international students had a great experience because the class sizes were very small. So about 20 to 25 students. So they got to make American friends. They got to know their professors. And I think because of the small size, they were able to get better grades and succeed. Whereas international students that go to a big university, they might be in a class of 200, 300 students. And so it's a lot more difficult to make friends, to understand the material. So it depends on your style. So it's just really think about that, because if you're not happy with the experience, then you probably will not get good grades and so forth. And so for your university, if you're interested in undergraduate, you can go to, again, Education USA to help you just explain the system. And another alternative, which is very unique to the US, is the community college system. And these colleges offer 2-year degrees, and you can get visas to study there. Most of the time they are public, so meaning they are funded by the US, the states and the government, and they can be rural or urban setting. And this could be very ideal for international students because you can work on the classes you need, and usually they're smaller class sizes and it's cheaper. And then you can transfer to a 4-year university. So this is a good financial option, and many American students do this as well. And so if you're interested in this option, again, you can go to Education USA and research your options at a community college. And so right here. And then the other option so maybe if you're not interested in doing a degree in the US, which is fine, but you want to improve your English, and you can come to the US maybe for a semester or 9 months or whatever is best for you. And there are intensive English programs. So usually that's about 20 to 25 hours a week of studying English. And typically it's prepare students for a 4-year university degree, or it can be a study abroad experience. In my situation, we had many students that came for 1 semester just to get an experience in the US, and we were based at a university. So we had some students continue, but this is a really good option if you want to improve your English and be involved on a campus community. So, but it's not for a long-term experience. So this is, I'll show you the website. Oh, I did not open that one up. EnglishUSA.org, and that will show you the types of intensive English programs in the US. So you can go there, and there's a map, and you can hover over the maps and see which program exists and so forth. Okay, so far I've talked about the types of education in the US, or the main programs. Any questions so far, either about a 4-year university, the community college, or intensive English programs? And if you can put your question in the chat box.
Yeah, there is a question from Aygul.
Mm-hmm.
Can you please tell us about community colleges once more? So something
Yes.
included.
Okay, good question. So I'll go to my slide. A community college is, so students that go to a community college get what's called an associate's degree. So it's a different path. And for most international students, they go there and they take their general education classes, and then they transfer to a four-year university to get their bachelor's degree. And there are several benefits to doing that. A, the tuition costs are cheaper. The class sizes are smaller. And so it's just a better environment for international students to succeed. And then they transfer to the four-year university to take their major classes. So for example, if you're an accounting major, you would take all of your accounting classes at the four-year university. But in the community college, you would take your general education classes, such as an English class, a science class, a history class, and so on. And I encourage you to go to this website, Education USA. And so just type educationusa.state.gov. And then you can also just search in community college there. But if you go research your options, and then it says all of the programs here: community college, undergraduate, graduate, short term. Okay, very good question. Other questions?
Yes, Alfia is asking, is it possible just to graduate from a community college and finish studying, or it is not enough?
It depends on your goals. Yes, people graduate from a community college and they get the associate's degree. So it depends on what you want. But in the US, the associate's degree is different than a bachelor's degree. So it depends on your goals. And you can always, for those questions, I encourage you to go to the US Embassy and Consulate, this website, kzembassy.gov, and you can talk with someone about your particular goals and what's desirable for you. Good. Other questions?
Seems like not. We can
Okay,
go
good.
on.
I will, so far, good questions. Thank you for asking questions. Okay. Okay, so the application process, this is, I will do my best to explain it, and every school is different, and right now it's COVID. So everything's sort of out the window. But so application deadlines, I want to explain, not all universities have the same deadline or process. This is very important. However, generally speaking, November, December, January is a good idea of most deadlines. So it depends. And the earlier you apply, the earlier you find out, and you can move on with your process of taking the test, getting your transcript translations, and taking the test if you need to, and applying for the visa, and starting your process, because it takes so much time. And especially right now with COVID, if you plan on doing something even in fall 2021, it just takes a lot of time. So look at some universities or community colleges, make sure you look at their deadlines and look at what their requirements are. So all universities have a IELTS or TOEFL requirement. And so each number is a little different depending on the university, but so you just check that out. And then admissions test, sometimes the ACT or the SAT. However, because you're an international student, there might be a different way to do that. So they might require they'll require a transcript, and you will need to get that translated to the American system, which costs money and then takes time. So there's lots of things to think about when you apply for universities. And of course, each application fees and materials. So applications, some universities, you might have to pay $20, $30, $50 to pay to just for the apply. Some are free. And then some universities require essays or letters of recommendation, more so for master's and PhD programs. Undergraduate programs, it just depends on the school. So with all this in mind, this is all expensive. The TOEFL test and IELTS test costs money, the ACT, the transcript. So think about the budget and how much time it takes for all of that, because it cannot happen tomorrow. It takes a few weeks at best, and I would recommend a month or two to get everything worked out. Any questions about the application process?
Yeah, there is a question from Baljan. Is there any universities where IELTS or TOEFL is not required for master's degree?
I believe it's part of the requirement for visas most of the time to have an IELTS score. So I don't believe so. I think it is a very standard, especially for a master's degree, unless there are exceptions, unless you did your degree in like an English speaking country, if you're but even then you probably still need an IELTS or TOEFL. So I can't look at the requirements of each program. Other questions? Okay, I'm moving on. Okay, fees and scholarships. This is the American education system is famous for being not affordable, but there are many options. And private universities may have more money for scholarships for international students compared to public universities. Public universities are state operated or state funded. So this is something to consider as well. So when you're doing your search, think about, private universities may offer you more money to go there. And again, you can always check exchanges.state.gov for different types of funding opportunities. And this doesn't have to be, and always remember, if you want an experience in the US, you don't have to go to a university or a community college. You can join one of the programs through the US Embassy or through another organization for 1 semester or 3 weeks. And I think any experience is better than no experience. So, just try your best to see what's available and apply for as many things as you can. And hopefully you'll get accepted to one of those.
Caroline, there is a question from More Than Just Timor.
Okay.
How many grants do a university provide on average? Like scholarships, grant opportunities?
Yeah, that's a good question and a very difficult question. And this is the difference between public and private universities. And so I cannot answer that question because every school is different. So that would be something to research into that university and ask them personally. I can tell you from my experience, I worked at a public university in rural West Tennessee, and they offered nothing to international students because it's a public school. We had no money available for international student scholarships. But private universities have a different funding source. Okay, good question. Anything else? Okay, so just in brief, university life. So when students talk about a class, it's 3 credit hours. And so 12 credit hours equal a full schedule. And so that's usually about 4 classes. Okay, so students take 4 classes or up to 18 hours, the average load. And so the classes meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 50 minutes or an hour, and Tuesday, Thursday for 60 minutes or 90 minutes. And the science classes are usually have more credit hours because they have a lab component. And the types of classes, the first year or two of a 4-year bachelor's degree, or if you were to do a community college degree and transfer to a university, is what's called general education classes. And these classes are not major specific, but are needed to graduate. So for example, you might take a history class, a science class, I'm trying to think, there's a music requirement, there's a history requirement. So there's several different requirements to meet these general education. And then once you move into finish those, you can move into your major requirements. So, and you have to do them in a certain, just like Kazakhstan, you have to do these in a certain order to graduate. So when you're a student in the US, I think the US education system is, from my experience, is different than when I was studying in Estonia and studying in the UK, is students are expected to attend class every day. And throughout the semester, students are required to do homework and submit assignments. And many professors will not accept late work. And your final grade is comprised of all these assignments and homeworks. And so maybe by the time you get to the final exam, it's only 30% of your grade. So if you have not been doing your homework all semester and then only show up for the final exam, you will fail no matter what. And my experience in other countries, in the UK and Estonia, is the opposite. So it's really important to know that, because I've seen my fair share of international students not understand this and then not do well in the class. And in the US, many make use of what's called office hours. So if you're taking a class and the professor says my office hours are on Tuesday from 3 to 4, that's the time when you can just ask the professor questions about the material or about the subject. And they really enjoy talking to students. That's why they're there. So take advantage of that. And also, if you do have questions later on, they will remember you. And that's really important to know, because if by the time you make it to the final exam and they don't know who you are, it just becomes very challenging. And then always correspond with your professor if you have questions, or if you can't make it to class, always email them and say, "Hi, Dr. Smith, I'm sick. I won't be in class on Wednesday. What is there any material you want me to read or cover, or can you send me the PowerPoint?" So this is the American style. The American style expects students to participate and be active in the process. Okay, any questions about student expectations, the types of classes, and the university life?
Caroline, actually, I have a question
Yes.
about the final, the graduation.
Mhm.
When you, at your final year, should we write like final theses, or
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
just final exams?
Okay, that's an excellent question. And it really depends on your major. And the and the university, because some universities require it, some don't. And your major. So for example, students that are accounting majors more than likely will have to sit final exams, final exams, graduation exams. But a student that's doing a history or English major might have to do a final thesis. So it really depends on your major. The universities try to make something that's useful for your degree of study.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's.
And also the question about the payment, like what's the average cost of a year at a university?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really, it depends on, is this your question, or is this someone's question?
Someone's question.
Okay, so there are many factors to consider. It's tuition, housing, room and board, and then living costs. And so the university where I worked and the location. So I worked at a small university, and the cost was about $9,000 per semester, but that included everything. That included the housing, the tuition, and housing, tuition, and fees. So that's per semester. So every university is a little bit different as far as where they are. You know, the city schools will be more expensive because it's just more expensive to be in a city. The rural schools are usually a little cheaper. The private schools might have scholarships and so forth for international students. But also, when you apply for your visa, you need to have a certain amount of money set aside in your bank account, and that will be just, you can also review that information at the U.S. Embassy and Consulate in Kazakhstan. Okay, other questions?
Yes, Google is asking, can community colleges cut some credits from bachelor's? I mean, for example, you can jump up to the second or third course after community college.
That's right. Yep, that's correct. So, so they prepare you to take, so ideally you can do 2 years at a community college and 2 years at a bachelor's degree, and then graduate. Okay, good. Other questions?
Not
Okay.
for a while, so we can
Okay,
move
good.
forward.
So what's on campus? And I know this is different than, so campuses, and this is what you pay for with you, students pay for with their student fees and tuition, is campuses have what's called a writing center. So if you need help with writing your paper, they can help you with your grammar and structure. There are tutoring services for math, science, economics, accounting, many classes. You can go to tutoring sessions. There's a library on campus that has a lot of resources. And then computer labs so that you can use the computers there. And then also there are lots of student clubs and organizations so you can make friends. And if you're, for example, if you're interested in Japanese anime, there's an anime club, there's sports clubs, there's all sorts of organizations for students. And these are all free for students because it's included in your tuition and fees. So most importantly, for international students to take advantage of the tutoring services and writing services. And that way they can help you with your classes as well. And the campus also has like health resources. So there's a health center on campus that provides basic services. It's not a hospital, but if you have a cold or something like that, you can go there and they can give you some medicine. And if you need to see a mental health professional, there's counseling, and all campuses have some kind of fitness center. So there's a gym, they have group fitness classes, swimming pool, weightlifting, and so on. And so that's all my presentation. Those are the basics of being just the basics of university system in the US. We have the community college system, the four-year university and English language programs, and there are also short-term programs. And I always, if you have not been so already, go to the Kazakhstan usembassy.gov and learn about some short-term programs, semester programs, and so on. All right, so that's my presentation, and I'm open to any questions of anything.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for this
you're welcome.
presentation. Yes, and yeah, we have questions from more than just Timur. Timur, would you like to unmute yourself and ask questions yourself, or would you like me to read? So please, guys, feel free to like interact right now. So you can ask questions yourself. So Timur? It's noisy. Okay, I'll ask for you. Some people consider that it's better to graduate from a local university here in Kazakhstan and then apply for a master's degree abroad, for example, the US university, since it will be cheaper. Do you agree with this?
Oh, I don't know the cost of schools in Kazakhstan, but I mean, master's degrees are shorter in the US, and there are more, doing a master's degree, you can apply to be a graduate assistant. So there are a little bit more ways to get funding or scholarships. So I don't know if it's by cheaper, I'm not quite sure, but there are alternatives to get scholarships and so forth, more than there is for undergraduate level.
Okay, Adelina is asking, if we get a scholarship at US university, are we obliged to work in the US for some period?
That's a good question. So the scholarships are not going to be by the US government. So no, it's not that type of scholarship. So, and I'm guessing, is she referring to maybe, well, either way, there's no requirement to work.
I've asked this question because in Kazakhstan we have really strange, because if we get a scholarship from the government, so they want to return this money, and they oblige us to work at some places in Kazakhstan. That's why I asked this question.
Yeah, the US does not have that system.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
Yes, Yeligai? Do you want to ask something?
Sorry, no, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right. I actually have a question, like regarding what opportunities American students have. Like, is it very different from what international have, or like they are equal?
What do you mean?
Like anything, and in application, like everything is the same for international and American?
It's very similar. I guess the only difference is that international students have that Americans don't, of course, is the IELTS test. Americans don't need to do the IELTS, but Americans do need to do the ACT. They still need to do the essays. They still need, it just depends. So the only other requirements that international students have is the IELTS and the transcript translation. And of course, the visa process that international students need to go through. But the actual application is very similar on both sides.
No, okay. Thank you. And
Yeah.
another question. When like people graduate, for example, bachelor, and how many students per professor are they? Like how many graduate students can one professor have?
Okay, this is where it depends on the type of university students go to. So if like the university where I taught is a small university, so the class sizes are small, and by the time students graduate, they build a good relationship with the professor. And that was about 6,000 students total in the university. But if you go to a big school, for example, I'm in Tennessee. So if students go to University of Tennessee, there are 24,000 students in that school. So even by the time students graduate, they will get to know their major professors, but they may not have them as frequently as they would in a smaller university. So it depends on what the student wants out of their experience. I know, for example, my cousin, he went to a big university, 24,000 students. He didn't really want to make any kind of relationships with his professors. He wanted to study accounting, do it, get his classes done, get good grades, and that's it. And he did it. He did very well. He is not interested in socializing or anything. And I am the opposite. So I wanted a small university, so I got to know my professors and I had that experience.
Yes, that's nice. Like I graduated from a university where like it was the university itself is quite big, but my department was smaller. But still, it was like a bit challenging to get the time from professor because there were several students who were attached to this professor.
Yes, exactly. So think about your needs as a student.
Yeah. Baljan, yes, you have a question you can ask.
Hello, I have a question. I've graduated from the university this year and I'm going to do my master degree. And is there any universities, is it possible to get a scholarship in the field of, in the pedagogical field?
Ecology?
Pedagogical.
Oh, teaching?
Teaching. Yes, teaching.
So it depends on, right now I would start looking at, American universities, teaching is a little different because they want the teachers to teach in the US, but it depends on the program. I cannot tell you one way or another, because you might be able to get a graduate assistantship that pays for quite a bit. So when you're looking at programs in the US, look for the phrase graduate assistantship. And
Okay.
that basically means, as a student, as a master's student, you might be teaching a class to undergraduates. So you are assisting the professor. That's what it means, a graduate assistant.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Caroline. Thank you
Yes,
so
hi.
much. And sorry if it's a weird question, but what's the difference between CSS profile, financial aid, and scholarships? Because I'm a bit confused because there are some scholarships that are provided from specific universities and some are from organizations, so I don't see the difference.
The difference is where the money comes from. So as I said, so for example, an organization could be a private organization, such as maybe a Kiwanis, a community club gives money that is not attached to the university. The university might have some money that they give, and then there could be another source. So they're different types. The money comes from different areas.
So if the UCLA does not provide scholarships for international students, can I ask another organization for a scholarship? I mean, other.
Maybe, yeah. So you would have to search for, I don't know anything about UCLA, but you'd have to do some extra searching. You'd have to look into what area you want to study. Are you doing master's or undergraduate? So there are lots of different areas.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? And my advice is, of course, there are the big schools and the big states like New York, California, Texas, Florida, but there are schools all over the US. And for example, if maybe you want to go to school in New York, but the cost of living in New York is really expensive. And so maybe look into other states where you can still get a bachelor's degree, but the cost of living is maybe 50% cheaper. So, and also consider the bigger school you go to, the more likely you're going to be with other Kazakhs or Russian speakers. So it's going to be a lot more difficult to make American friends. But if you go to a smaller school, you have no choice but to make American friends.
That's a good point. Aigul is also asking some words about PhD. Are there rural universities better than public ones to go to study and PhD with your family? Like, is it possible?
So to go as a, PPT?
It says PhD. Aigul, could you please clarify your question? Yeah, doctoral PhD.
Oh, PhD. Okay, with a family. Oh man. Okay, so once you get into PhD programs, it really there are fewer options, and so sometimes depending on what that person's studying for their PhD, they might not have that many options. But talking with the family, of course, people bring their families to the US all the time for PhD programs, and maybe that might be something when that student is applying for the program, maybe ask the admissions office, like, hey, I will be bringing my family here. Like, is this what type of housing is available and so forth? Because, for example, university where I worked, we had housing for families. So it made that transition a lot easier. But not all universities have housing for families. And then that's you know, another thing that people have to worry about when they're not in the US. That's a good question.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Does do law schools have scholarships? Because I know it's the law schools overprices in USA.
Okay. I would, if it's a public school, they probably do not. Like the previous student said, UCLA, that's a public school, no scholarships for international students. So those are the schools you probably hear about. So no, but that's why maybe think of private schools as well.
Thanks.
Or, you know, if you don't want to do a whole degree, there are semester experience. You can come for a semester. You can do a short-term study abroad. So, you know, if you can't do a whole 4 years, I understand that, but look at other options as well.
Yes. Adelina, do you want to ask something?
Yes. So I have a question concerning the education, and the question is so about teacher English, English teachers. So in Kazakhstan we have a program, 2 languages, 2 foreign languages as a two. Oh no, foreign languages, 2 foreign languages. So we study French and English, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked with some people from Europe, and when they saw my diploma, they said that it's something strange because we have as as a profession is an English teacher, but there are some lessons, some courses of linguistics and other things that related to philology part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about in America? Because it's really difficult for me to understand the difference between it. Because in Kazakhstan, it's normal to have such subjects as philology, as linguistics, cognitive linguistics, contrastive linguistics, and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
what about America? Do we need
So
Mhm.
yes. So what's your, like, what are the degree requirements for teaching English, like teaching a foreign language?
Yes.
It is different. So so if an undergraduate student wants to be a teacher, a lot of the courses really focus on teaching practices and development, student development. And of course, they take classes based on that subject, but most of the classes they take are based on student development and practices, and not so much into the details, like you said, linguistics and so forth. It's not as detailed in the US.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And if they want to be a teacher, they have only pedagogical sciences.
In the US,
Methodology. Yes.
it's a little bit of both, but the subject itself. So, for example, if a student wanted to teach Spanish, because Spanish is our foreign language. So let's say a student wants to teach Spanish, that student would be a Spanish minor. So they would take the Spanish classes at the university, and then they would take the education classes as well, which focuses on, so they're 2 different departments kind of. So you have to, so students education and then Spanish. So they're 2 departments combined into one. So does that make sense? So if you're
Yes. Thank you.
So it's very nice, like So people in American universities, can students choose credits and lessons from different departments, or it also depends on like their major?
So the first 2 years is what I call the general education. So that's when you take the different classes. So there's a component, you have to take some classes in social sciences. So that could be history, sociology, philosophy, the social sciences. And then students need to take classes in the science area. And then students need to take classes in the, what's another category? Like fine arts. So they need to take certain amount of classes before they take their majors classes. So this is what's nice about the US system compared to the UK and other systems. If you start university and let's say you want to be an English teacher, you want to be an education major. And then after your first year of university, you decide, I don't want to do this. I want to do business. Well, you can change pretty easily and not have to take other classes. Whereas in other universities in the UK, if you change your degree, you have to start at level 1. Whereas the US, it's easy to transfer within that first year or 2.
That's a nice flexibility.
Yeah. How about in Kazakhstan? Is it once you start that course, are you in that course?
Yes. So unless you want to like drop and start again,
then you start something again. Yeah, the US is different in that sense. Yep.
Yes, Adelina is commenting, I really like it in the US system. Yes.
Yeah, because most Americans change their major. I changed my major my first year, and that's fine. And I didn't have to take extra school.
Alihan, don't worry. So if you are late, you will still have a chance to watch this session on our YouTube channel, Kazakhstan American Corners YouTube channel. So it will be uploaded this week. But if you have questions right now, you can ask. Okay, so we still have like a couple of minutes, and I wanted to ask about like maybe your personal experience. So it is always interesting. Like we are like in Kazakhstan and in other countries, we strive for education abroad as well, like in the US or in Europe, and go beyond. So now the question is like, how about Americans? So the United States, they have very high education like standards and the best universities in the world. And so do students still want to study abroad and like move beyond their own country?
Yeah. And I think that's an excellent question. So the university where my undergraduate university, I went to a small private liberal arts school in Nebraska, and most students study abroad for at least a semester a year. So the culture is the university culture to study abroad is very strong. So as I said, I studied for 1 semester in Estonia. So so that university really emphasizes getting that cultural experience, because you learn so much about everything about yourself. And so having that cultural experience is very huge. The university where I taught here in West Tennessee, we're in a rural location. It's a smaller university. It's a lot more difficult to encourage students to get an abroad experience for various reasons. It's expensive. They don't maybe see the value of spending a semester abroad or even a few weeks. So that's some challenges, just the two different types of campus cultures, because I went to a school where we're very encouraged, and here, the school where I used to teach in Tennessee, the university makes it very difficult to study abroad for a semester. So it depends on the type of university that students attend. But personally, I think everyone should go abroad for some time period to learn about different cultures, learn about yourself, learn about your country, think about your home country and the differences. I think everyone should experience something, even if it's 3 weeks or a semester. It's better than nothing.
That's nice advice. Yes, and I agree with this. So like we see the world like from maybe different perspective. We broaden our horizons, and it's always good to learn how people also live in different environments.
Right. And the nice thing about doing a program is, you're taking classes, you get the rhythm. As if you're a tourist, you're a tourist. But if you get some kind of program or some type of experience, I think you understand a little bit deeper of that country's culture.
Like from within, when you are living there, actually.
Right. So
Yeah.
summer programs, a language program, semester is more immersive than being a tourist. But a tourist is fine too. I like touring as well. I like being a tourist, but I also really enjoy taking programs.
Yes, we all hope that this situation will end soon and the borders will be open again, so we can move and travel. And
Yes.
to Kazakhstan.
Yeah, I was supposed to be there right now. I was really hoping to be in Kazakhstan now and not in Tennessee.
It would be great to have in-person programs.
Yes.
Still, thanks we have these technologies, and thank you very much for joining us today and sharing this useful information. I hope that our visitors, our participants learn a lot. So, okay,
and my email address is there. You can always email me questions, and I can help you with more experiences. I did not particularly name any university. I'm not affiliated with any university, but I'm aware of the challenges that international students have in the US.
And this is a great opportunity for our participants right now, so they have this unique chance to contact you directly and like ask for advice. So please, guys, stay tuned for our next programs, and if you have questions, please ask. You can address Caroline directly by this email, or visit all these useful links that we shared. Also, please, if you have questions, ask directly on our social media platforms, and share with your friends this great information you've learned today. And also, we'll, as I said, upload this recording to our YouTube channel. You can rewatch it whenever you want. So this week it hasn't ended yet, so we will still have very nice programs related to education, and please just scroll our pages and find out more information. We wish you a very nice, if you are in Kazakhstan, it's good night. For Caroline, we wish you a very nice day.
Yes, thank you. Well,
the day is just starting right now.
Yes, that's true. Well, thank you for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you very much.
All right.
See you. Goodbye.
Bye.